Remember, it's important to always review the charts you intend to use for a given instrument flight. Planning and preparation before taking off will make you a safer and more competent instrument pilot. This program concentrates on the briefing strip format. The briefing strip approach chart format is divided into 4 sections: heading, plan view, profile view, and landing minimums. The information is arranged in a specific pattern based on how pilots review and use the chart data. The second major section of the approach chart is the plan view. This view provides you with the overhead perspective of the approach procedure and the surrounding airport vicinity. To help you measure distance, a mileage scale is located along the left side of the chart plan view. Typically, 1 inch is equal to 5 miles, but it may differ if the chart covers a large geographical area. Latitude and longitude lines are shown in 10-minute increments along the inside edges of the plan view. The primary airport is depicted with its corresponding runway layout. For reference, airports in the vicinity that have an instrument approach or VFR airports that underlie the final approach are shown with light shading. A star symbol indicates the airport has a lighted beacon. Several types of orientation details are also shown on the plan view of approach charts. These include ground features like major lakes or rivers, as well as terrain high points and man-made structures. Typically, only those points and structures higher than 400 feet above the airport elevation are depicted on the plan view. Remember, not all man-made structures or terrain high points are depicted on the approach chart. Various symbols are used to represent terrain high points and man-made structures. These symbols are defined in the chart legend. A bold arrow is used to point out the highest known terrain or structure. The mean sea level elevation is given next to the symbol. It's important to know that there may be other higher uncharted terrain or man-made structures. The terrain and obstruction altitudes depicted on the chart should not be relied on for descent below the minimum IFR altitudes. Terrain contour information is depicted when terrain within the approach chart plan view exceeds 4,000 feet above the airport elevation, or when terrain within 6 nautical miles of the airport reference point rises to at least 2,000 feet above the airport elevation. This information is for reference only and must not be relied on for terrain clearance. Minimum IFR altitudes published on the procedure provide terrain clearance. Nav-aid symbols shown on the plan view are similar to those found on other Jeppesen charts. For example, a VOR is indicated by a compass rose. A TACAN or DME is symbolized by a serrated circle, and a VORTAC or VOR DME is represented by combining the 2 symbols. Localizer, ILS, LDA, SDF, and MLS course approaches are shown as a half-feathered arrow. The primary navigational aid information is shown in bold type enclosed in a shadowed box. The information boxes for other facilities depicted in the plan view are not shadowed. Each information box contains the facility name, frequency, letter identifier, and Morse code identifier. If a D appears in the box, it indicates the facility transmits DME information. The letter H in parentheses indicates this is a high-altitude VOR station. If the letter T appears, the station is a terminal class facility. And L indicates a low-altitude class VOR. If the facility is a localizer, ILS, LDA, SDF, or MLS, the nav-aid information is enclosed in an oval-shaped box. On localizer back course approaches, the front course information is also included in the box. This is provided for pilots flying aircraft equipped with an HSI. Various approach transitions are also depicted on the chart to assist you during the transition from the en route structure to the initial approach fix, or IAF, especially when the IAF is not part of the en route structure. Approach transitions are flyable routes that provide a minimum of 1,000 feet of obstacle clearance. This obstacle clearance extends 4 nautical miles on either side of the charted course. You can determine if a line on a chart indicates a flyable route or is simply a radial or bearing forming a fix by noting several items. The magnetic course is shown with the course line, and the nautical mile distance is printed next to the line. The route also has a minimum altitude, such as 4,000 feet. In addition, a flyable route uses a wider, darker line than the one used to indicate a radial or bearing forming a fix. Notice the difference between the two lines that point to Pipes intersection and the line between Pipes and Argand. The lines locating Pipes intersection are simply radials from a VOR that help locate the beginning of the DME arc and the initial approach fix. They are not flyable routes. On some routes, you must fly a heading rather than receive course guidance from a navigation facility. For routes in which this occurs, the letters HDG are printed near the route. Initial approach fixes are indicated on the plan view with the notation IAF. In this example, there are 3 initial approach fixes, one at Caps, one at Pipes, and one at R059, which is the 059-degree radial 14 DME from the Gregg County VOR. An initial approach segment is shown extending from each of these IAFs. If a course reversal is authorized, it is depicted on the plan view. When this type of symbol is used, you may reverse course any way you desire as long as you stay on the same side of the radial as depicted on the chart, which allows you to remain within the protected airspace. You must also stay at or above the minimum altitudes and within the distances shown on the profile view. When a procedural track is charted, as shown here, or depicted as a holding pattern like this, you must fly the procedure exactly as shown unless you are being radar vectored to the approach course. When the notation "No PT" appears, a procedure turn is not required or authorized. The next segment of an approach is the intermediate segment. It may begin at an intermediate fix, IF, or when you are aligned with the final approach course after flying the DME arc or the procedure turn and ends at the final approach fix. While flying the intermediate segment, you have a minimum of 500 feet of obstacle clearance. The width of this segment tapers from 4 nautical miles on either side of the course at the start of the segment, down to as little as 2 nautical miles at the final approach fix. The final approach segment begins at the final approach fix. On a precision approach, this is the point where you intercept the glide slope at the minimum glide slope intercept altitude. This interception usually occurs near the outer marker, which in this case is good. The final approach segment ends at the runway or at the missed approach point, whichever is encountered last. The missed approach course is indicated by a dashed line on the plan view. When information concerning the missed approach continues off the plan view, an inset is provided. The inset area is not drawn to scale.